Hello everybody, this is your Torador's Extended Warranty, and oh boy, we's doing a thing today. Ignore the slang, I do that sometimes. Today we're going to basically ride by this seat of our chair. We'll use that. I'm still trying to figure out this whole, like, if I'll ever be able to be monetized by YouTube thing, and I think I've applied a while back whenever I started making videos in the first place, so we'll see how that goes. Realistically, I won't be able to be monetized because a lot of the subject matter I cover is a lot of, like, YouTube no-no stuff. And oh boy, have my comments, like, thus far been absolutely phenomenal. I have a person who claims that, Christian whites in the United States started slavery. So we're starting off strong with IQ levels. And then I have somebody who is claiming that cultural Marxism as a term is a anti-Semitic conspiracy theory rooted in, some shenanigans. And oh boy, today has been phenomenal. Now, anybody who's like, oh god, don't worry about your comments, don't worry. Well, I'm not worried about my comments. Realistically, I'm going to just read the fun ones. And by fun ones, I mean the stupid ones and the people who are less stupid. But I opted to get into this. I knew what I was expecting, and I have yet to be surprised by literally anything. Admittedly, people have told me I need to script my videos, and I don't disagree. I have certain vernacular quirks that I loop around to whenever I'm trying to think of what I want to say next. It happens. But, things are what they are. So we're starting with this opening image. Corporate needs to define the difference between this picture and this picture. Canadians, they're the same photo. I've been living in Vermont for almost 2 years now. I hate it here. This is a communist hellscape, and everybody's like, "Oh, so you say communism about everything." Yeah, Marxism is a thing, and there are lots of Marxists in the United States because they're fantastic at subverting people and literally lying about capitalism because that's what they do. Their PR game is phenomenal. Props. I hate you all, but props. Regardless. I've been to Canada Land. Maple Syrup Valley, as it were. And several of the times that I have been there, I have seen stop signs. And people don't stop at stop signs. They kind of just yield. It's not even a California roll. It is is there cars waiting on the other side who technically would have right-of-way? Who cares? Let's drive! And it's like, ugh. And then they come into Vermont because we're right across the border, and they get to earn more money here by working here and living in Canada. Because of course they can. And so, whenever they stop at a stop sign, well, again, they don't stop. I saw it was a minivan with four, I don't know, 20-somethings year old women, and there was a semi coming, and they were rolling up to a stop sign, and they didn't look like they were going to stop, and they actually almost pulled out until the semi was like up on them, and then they actually were forced to stop. Except here's the thing. You'd have thought it would be full on stop. No, they were still partially rolling forward. They did not even fully compress the brakes. This meme is one that I personally made that is saved in my photos, as all of the opening photos will be. Making fun of Canadians for the fact that they do not stop at stop signs. I don't even know if they have yield signs in Canada. I haven't checked. I mean, I would assume. But also, stop at stop signs. Please, for the love of God. Alright, so we're going to drop the opening image for a minute. And we're going to bring up Firefox. Firefox. So, I actually want to discuss some of the comments that I've seen recently, like I was doing at the beginning of this video. And I've been getting some interesting stuff, and it's probably not going to be a consistent thing that I do unless I garner an audience and they actually enjoy me covering that. But the reason that I wouldn't want to, or maybe would only do it occasionally, is because it would incentivize people to make dumb comments just to have me talk about them. And I don't want to create that kind of incentive. So, before I grow an audience, I'm going to kind of do this maybe ever so often, because people are just kind of dumb. But actually, I'm going to hide Firefox for a minute, because I don't want to... Normally, I don't care about putting people on blast. I really don't. But I think that it's warranted to kind of, like, talk about some of this stuff, because it's just dumb. Also, YouTube created or changed their creator space. So that's frustrating. On one of my more recent videos of Makeshift and Sega versus like Christianity and death people and like people worshiping death. That was a... The intent of that video was effectively to kind of get across that modern norms are a little stupid, and people who advocate for political violence manage to keep sponsors, while people who are just Christian can't keep sponsorships because they're just Christian. It doesn't really make much sense, honestly. And so, the first thing I got is not even a minute in, and I gotta be honest, bro, you need a script or to edit your videos. Yes, I'm aware. But for the time being, I'm gonna freaking yap. Because I can. One of the things is, I was reading this, and one of the things that I had mentioned is that Christians effectively ended slavery. I grossly over-exaggerated when I said that, because, or, correction, that is a very nuanced topic, when in reality what I should have said was, Christian cultural norms started ending slavery around the globe. That is a more apt terminology to use. And this is funny, because it says, second, do you even think that there is no Christian dominant cultures that actively engaged in slavery? I didn't say that. Christian cultures and all cultures around the world. Slavery is a global phenomenon. It has existed since before Christianity was even fundamentally founded. Slavery has always been a thing. Treatment of slaves is that of treating slaves like human beings. Or treating slaves well. Fun fact. God does not condone slavery. It says in the Bible, and I'm pretty positive, it's not even a direct quote from God. It's a quote from one of the disciples. It's in one of the books. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. It's been a long time since I've read through the entirety of the Bible. But fundamentally, it's like, it says, in essence, if you are a slave as a Christian, respect your master, but it also effectively says to treat or be kind to your fellow man. That's a thing in the Bible, like legitimately. The difference between Christianity and, say, I don't know, Islam, is the fact that Islam doesn't view non-believers as human beings. Christianity views all humans as human beings. There's a stark differentiation there. And yet, I get comments like this because, I mean, of course I'm going to. I know I'm going to. People are going to stumble across my stuff. People are going to hate subscribe, where they come in and they're just going, oh, look at me. I'm going to come in and comment and then rage post and not punctuate very well. But also, it's funny, because it says, early America, question mark? They ended slavery? Yeah, because they also started it. So, and it's like, oh, well, that's out of context. No, it's not, because the next thing that they said was, do not assume the identity of historical Christians onto yourself and try to defend them. They are not heroes. Okay. So, American Christians started slavery. This is probably one of the single dumbest things I think I've ever heard in my life, because again, slavery has existed throughout the entirety of history. There is slavery in existence now in majority Muslim countries, and it is black African slaves who are the slaves. They literally take black Africans as slaves, force them to convert, or beat them. They rape the women, molest the children. That is a real thing. And then they castrate the men so that they can't reproduce. That is a common practice that is quite well known if you get your head out of your anus for long enough to actually do proper research. It's like, Christians started slavery. No. Slavery has existed long before Christianity was ever even founded. And it has been around for a very, 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 very long time. The Barbary pirates were a phenomenal example of terrible, terrible, terrible individuals. And the funny thing is, I keep hearing people talk about how awful Christians are. But the reality is, a lot of the information about Christians, and look, I'm not Christian. My family is Christian. I grew up Christian. I haven't been Christian for a long time. Christians have screwed up throughout history, and they've done dumb things. But there's a lot of history that's been misrepresented for the sake of alienating and falsifying what Christians have done. The Crusades are one of the biggest examples of supposed atrocities committed by the Christian Church. Fun fact, however, the Christian Church did the Crusades explicitly as a defensive campaign. But people don't like you to know that, because between Marxists, atheists, and sympathizers of the pedophile religion, #Islam, well, you're going to have a lot of individuals who go, oh, well, actually, no, shut the hell up. I don't care. You're incorrect. You're lying about history, and you're trying to play the long game. You are trying to erode Christianity. You are trying to erode Western culture. You're trying to boil everything down to the lowest common denominator. And it's funny, too, because later in this, they say, it's because you're a chud and you're friends with chuds, because affirmation is arguably a better feeling than jerking off. Because I'm talking about video games being bad or being stupid. Not all video games, obviously. Context for that being Ubisoft is going soft bankrupt. And they deserve it. Because they keep making shit games. Because they've invited entities like Bridge into their midst, I guess. It's just really, really, really stupid. But this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. So, to somebody else, it's like, made another post, it's like, kind of funny to watch IMO saying Christians in slavery is such a stupid generalization, and I had to do a double take. And then it's like the dog whistles about far leftists are actually super violent, as such were expected. Yeah, actually. If you look at the SPLC, the ADL, and other organizations, and you look at their methodology for how they dictate extremism and violent extremist attacks, etc., one of the things that you'll discover is the fact that if you take a person who happens to be a neo-Nazi, like legitimately not a good person, a neo-Nazi, but he's not breaking the law, he's just being an asshole, he's just, being racist online, blah, blah, blah. There are people who think that he should be put in prison purely for his beliefs. Normally, those people are leftists. Because they believe, fundamentally, if you do not believe exactly as they do, that you need to be put into a camp, put into prison, or killed. That is not a fundamental belief on the right. You can say, oh, there are people on the right who have those beliefs, yes, but they are a microcosm. They are a small minority of individuals, and not representative of most of conservatives, or most of moderates, who are just right of center. And it's actually frustrating to me, having to listen to that, because all of the attempts on Donald Trump's life, oh, well, those were all false flags. Sure. Yeah, they totally convinced individuals who were Democrat-leaning, who donated to Democrats, who expressly talked about how much they wanted to kill Trump. They convinced them to go do false flags for the sake of making the Republicans look better. Sure, we're going to pretend that that's true. Except we won't, because it's not true. You're just coping. But to get back to my point, if a neo-Nazi doesn't do anything illegal, but then one day decides that he wants to, I don't know, punch his wife in the face, he gets arrested. That is listed as a far-right violent crime. It's not politically motivated. It's just a violent act. But because he is a neo-Nazi, it is considered a far-right political violent attack. That is what we in the industry like to call manipulating statistics. Are you conservative? Did you pray outside of an abortion clinic? Did you get arrested because someone punched you in the back of the head and so you defended yourself? Guess what? You're on that list too as a far-right extremist. You know what wasn't listed as extremist? 8 months of entire cities on fire. Hundreds of people injured. Over 36 dead over the BLM riots. Oh, and did you know, technically, Islamic extremism isn't considered far-left attacks. It's considered far-right attacks. Despite the fact that the pro-Palestinian crowd are almost exclusively far-left. The funny part about, all of these comments is, half the time, I don't know if they're rage bait or not. And of course, I'm never going to know, which is why in the future this will eventually taper off, especially if my channel takes off. I might collect some of my favorites over the years and then do a yearly breakdown of some of the dumbest ones I've ever seen. But it's just one of those things that I look at and I'm like, wow, the level of IQ here is so low. And the fact that you get to vote wherever you are in whatever country you're in it is baffling to me. Because, yes, violent leftist attacks have been consistent throughout history. Because conservatives have consistently advocated for meritocracy. The Democrats, the left, started the KKK. They started Jim Crow. They tried to sell a lie that was the party switch. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden were against desegregation because, quote, if we can't do busing, it'll turn the schools into a racial jungle. Hillary Clinton, prominently on the left, and a Democrat, well, they're just super predators. referring to black men. There was no party switch. The racists and the violent people have generally been on the left. Is that to say that the right has never done anything violent? No. It's just, according to recent memory, the reality is they haven't been nearly as violent as has been said. Because truth is stranger than fiction, and we've been lied to for literally years, decades even, about who's doing what. The SPLC was found to have been donating money to far-right organizations to literally create hate crimes that they can then continue to fundraise off of by pointing those out. Also turns out that the head of the SPLC, or one of them, was literally having sex with a neo-Nazi. I don't know what kind of language I want to use in these videos, due to the fact that I don't know how the monetization is going to work. But she was getting it on with a neo-Nazi, while also donating to said neo-Nazi. We don't even know that the Unite the Right rally would have even happened in Charlottesville had they not actually had money donated to them. And we've been lied to for so long about far right versus far left, it's hard to actually look at anything and just, it's frustrating. It really is. I don't know. I have just a broad level of irritation when it comes to stuff like this, because these people are legitimately dumb. They are dumb, they are uneducated, they don't know anything about history, they don't know anything about reality, and oftentimes it's hard to tell whether these individuals are just rage baiting for the sake of rage baiting. And there are so many people online who sell lies. Here's a fun lie that a lot of people don't actually know about. Did you know that Rosa Parks was not a grassroots thing? Supposedly, according to what I've looked up to look into this, because somebody had mentioned it to me offhand, there was a young black girl, I think 16, 17 years old, who was pregnant, single pregnant mother. And what happened to Rosa Parks actually happened to this girl. But because a single black girl was not marketable, they used this old black granny lady instead to jumpstart the civil rights movement. Or that part of the civil rights movement. It wasn't grassroots. They were like, hey, you know, this isn't marketable. Let's redo this whole thing, but with a woman who is like married, or, you know, maybe has kids, or, you know, she's elderly. People love the elderly. It just, the amount of things that we've been lied to about history is fascinating. And the further I look, the more I realize Marxists have been doing the best they can to burn this country down. I don't know if it's at the behest of Russia. I honestly think that that would be a conspiracy to actually say that. Realistically, there was a memorandum that I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the last video that these are commenting on, from Russia to have communists infiltrate America, infiltrate academia, infiltrate positions of power, media, etc., and burn the country down from the inside, convert it to communism. Because the Marxist goal is, do not leave good enough alone. Burn down every country to usher in the utopia. The fake utopia that can never actually happen, because the reality of what will happen, the truth, as it were, of what would happen, is that lots of people would fucking die. That's what communists want. Tens of millions of dead people and a group of individuals that they can control to force labor upon. They'll say that's not true, but they're lying scumbags and you should never believe anything that they say. That is the reality of what communists are. They are scam artists, and they should always be treated like scam artists. Look at me, getting frustrated over stupid people. Tankies aren't worth getting mad about, but they have far too much prominence in modern day. And I'm not going to get canceled for saying what I think should happen to communists. You all already know, but we're not going to talk about it. But last but not least, there was a comment on my blog, one of my posts, that explicitly talked about how feminists have done everything they can in their power in the UK to bring the rapists in the UK to justice. Because, you know, we recently found out about all of the files, all of the girls and the women who were raped and groomed and all of this other stuff. And they said that race and religion had absolutely nothing to do with it. The absolute gall when several of the women who were raped whenever they were girls came forward and testified that the men who did it saw them as less than human because they were white and because they were Christian, and explicitly targeted them for being white and Christian. Feminists aren't talking about this right now. They don't care. They will make this a male issue rather than making this a Islam issue or a Pakistani or Muslim issue. It's wild to me. And you might be like, it's not good to broad generalize people. Sorry. When your culture is headed by a religion where the prophet is literally, in every form and fashion conceivable, a pedophile who married a girl at 6 years old and then consummated the marriage, i.e. he diddled her at 9 years old, I'm going to assume the worst. I've seen, in person, Muslim women berating Western women for deciding to wear spaghetti string shirts. In person, I've seen this. Followed by, oftentimes, something along the lines of, if something happens to you, you deserve it for dressing like a whore. I'm sorry. I thought that we weren't supposed to say shit like that. Meanwhile, you'll have leftists defend them saying that, because they are not allowed to belittle or besmirch somebody who is a POC or from the correct faith. You know I'm going to get a lot of hate for these videos. I get that. I don't even care. I signed up for this. I'm not doing this for the hate. I'm doing this because I'm sick and tired of watching the world burn. And frankly speaking, I'm just sick of everything. I'm sick of the lies. I'm sick of the slander. I'm sick of the stupidity. I'm sick of impulsive 14, 15, and 16-year-old communists thinking they're edgy little shits who are effectively, I don't know, doing their best to swat people, dox people, etc. And then they grow up into their, late teens, their early 20s, and they believe that they are morally correct in doing whatever they're doing. And so they continue it until they get a rude awakening. Because they see people online, don't realize that they're human beings that are on the other side of the screen, and just like, you're doing wrong thing. Therefore, I'm going to get a SWAT team to go to your house, waste local resources that could be used going somewhere else, trying to get somebody that I don't know and have never met killed. And then threaten their family. And then try to find where their family members work, where they work, or if they have a job. Get them fired, get their family fired, harass and send them death threats. If we locked all of you people in prison, society would be a glimmering beacon of hope for the rest of the world. Legitimately. The fact that we can't, I mean, we can. There are laws on the books. It's just we don't use them. But yeah, no. You people need to be in prison, and not for wrongthink, for threats, for actual, legitimate harassment. Today was just me yapping. I'm a day late and $1 short, realistically, because I was supposed to put out a video yesterday, or Monday. I was sick Monday. Felt fine yesterday, but I was in a bad headspace. So just, yeah, 31 minutes of yapping about my comments and talking about how communists are stupid. Obviously, this video was going to be just a throwaway, I guess, talking about my comments. The future of my channel is going to be interesting. I plan on getting an updated model. That's going to be a not dramatic change from this one, but something that is updated and more mine, I guess. Probably not going to react to comments after I get to a certain threshold of followers. Not that I want to. But in the modern climate, and I really wish I'd have started this years ago, in the modern climate, there's kind of no winning when you're a moderate. Because I'm just a left-of-center moderate, watching everyone just throw shit. And it's kind of wild. Because I have people accuse me of being everything under the sun, and I'm like, you people don't know anything about me, and it's hilarious. I'm not Christian. I was raised Christian. I haven't been for a long time, but I respect Christianity. Do not respect Islam or their Sharia tenets. But you have, like, the far right who hate Jews. You have the far left who also hate Jews. You have the communists who also hate the Jews. You have the Jews that hate the Christians and the Muslims. And then just, there's no winning, honestly. There is no middle ground anymore. Because if you're on the middle ground, you're getting laid into by literally all sides. But you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with this. Again, this is what I signed up for. I want to talk about current events. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about culture. I want to do gaming streams every now and again just to kind of, I don't know, throw people a bone. Maybe just do a yap session where I live stream occasionally after I reach, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 followers, where I know people might actually come on and support me. And possibly do polls. It's like, hey, what do you think I should do as a topic going forward? You know, what can I yap about? Would y'all like to see me play a game? Stuff like that. But I'm still going to talk about politics and culture. Because it is factual that people are attempting to burn down the West. It is not a conspiracy theory. It's not fake. There are people who are accelerationist who want the West to burn. There are communists who want the West to burn because they believe they can install their communist utopia, i.e., they get filthy rich and own everything and you own nothing. That's not real communism. No, that's actually exactly real communism. That was always the intention of communism. Is a 0.01% who pulls the ladder up behind them, calls themselves the proletariat, and then forces everyone into extreme poverty. Like Cuba. Like Venezuela. Yeah. Yeah. Always the goal. Greedy little shits. The lot of them. The accelerationists aren't any better because they believe that if you just burn everything down and start everything new, things will just go well. They won't. If you burn down everything and nothing is left, the system that you try to create will likely be turned upon you. And then you'll have nowhere to go. You're going to be knifed in the back by somebody else who believes that they are a better believer than you are. That's history. Actual history. But anyways, this has been a long enough video of me yapping, kind of explaining my point of view. Still not sure what I want to do with my Friday video yet. I might talk about current events. Who knows? But this has been your Torador's Extended Warranty. Over and out.